AI is getting smarter. That means that it's built less and less for you. But here's how we can fix that. Hey everyone, I'm Alex. I'm an electrical engineer and a computer science graduate student. I'm happy to say that the future of AI is not all doom and gloom. And there's a lot of things that we can do as individuals to steer the direction of the emerging AGI trend. So let's talk about it. While I have plans to go over AI from a foundational point of view, basically building AI from scratch, I highly recommend going over 3 Blue, 1 Brown's video series on AI and LLMs. It gives a very solid mathematical foundation for understanding AI from first principles. AI is a really exciting frontier, but it can also be kind of scary, especially to the people who don't understand it, which is completely valid. Everyone is skeptical of systems that they don't understand, but there's another reason why some people might be scared, and that's because they see AI and the direction that it's taking, and they might not like where it's headed. Let's look at AI from a 1,000-foot view and slowly hone in on how AI works and how we can steer it. Deep at its core, AI is really just numbers, and that might be a little bit of a simplification, but the math behind AI is not something the world has never seen before. In fact, the mathematical foundation that AI is built on has actually been around since the 1800s, depending on what kind of lens you look at it through. What AI tries to do fundamentally is try to guess better, and that kind of math has been around for a very long time. One of the only reasons why AI is getting so big now is because our computers are finally powerful enough to do the calculations at a real-time pace. And that real-time aspect is what people really latch onto. Now, in order to get the right calculations out of an AI model, it has to be trained on just unfathomable amounts of data. And this data is sourced from every avenue possible. And this is where AI diverges from being customized to an individual. Large language models like ChatGPT need to be trained on such large amounts of data, it's nearly impossible for a single model to be trained on the output of a single person. So, since we know AI is trained on data from a very abstract point of view, let's talk about where AI is headed. Now, there's an interesting trend with AI that shows if you simply throw more computational hardware at a problem or a model, it actually becomes more nuanced and advanced on its own. But one of the issues with that is you throw more computational hardware at a model, you make the model bigger, you actually have to train it on more data in order for it to converge and become better. Now, what this means is that we need to source data from many different places. And every tiny little nuance you get out of every little bit of data starts to get obscured because it's spread across such a large model, and the signal to noise ratio is very high in general trends, but when it comes to specific ways of thinking or particular views, the noise starts to get very loud compared to the single output of, say, a particular individual's work. Now, since we know that AI works a lot better the more hardware you throw at it, what we are starting to see is the trend of large organizations and corporations throwing funding and resources at these AI models. And what that means is that the capability of these models is starting to become more and more closed source and more restricted. Now, don't get me wrong, the things that OpenAI and Google are doing are absolutely adding value and pushing the limits of computation forward in a very interesting and frankly amazing way. But one of the lesser known stances of AI that I feel like I would like to voice is that the way AI works right now can only ever work at the enterprise and corporate level. Because of the resources that we are throwing at AI, it's nearly unattainable to an individual. And what this means is that AI, and especially the future of AGI, is getting pushed more and more towards something that can serve the widest audience possible, because these enterprises need the widest audience possible in order to support this kind of business and this kind of resource allocation. Now, why this is important to you is that as AI gets pushed farther and farther into a general audience, it means that the possible value that you can extract out of AI becomes less and less. And not necessarily that it won't be helpful to you, but the amount that a certain model can adapt to a certain individual is going to be extremely limited. And that means less quality work coming out and less nuance and more time getting sunk into prompt engineering, and it's just going to be more and more of a mess. Imagine taking someone from a trade that they are not familiar with and then getting them fully trained up to do a completely different job with any kind of advanced nuance or self-sustaining capability. That is what AI is going to be driven towards. More jack of all trades as opposed to master of anything. So this loops back on why AI is kind of not made for you. Not only in the future will you likely get less out of AI, the worst part is that you won't own anything. This intellectual property is held behind closed doors, and you can only extract as much value as a company or separate organization essentially allows you to get. Now, this is the part where I loop back and talk about how the future of AI is not all doom and gloom. While organizations like OpenAI and Google are pushing the limits on model size, what individuals like you or I could do is push the limits on model depth. And what I mean by that is we as individuals can self-host models and absolutely optimize them to the point where we extract as much possible value out of them as we possibly can with our modest hardware, relatively speaking. Working off of that idea, this is where I get to talk about Atria, which is my platform that I've built, where you can download and try it out right now, where it's completely self-hosted, all of your data remains private, and the models that you build and train yourself remain yours. And what this focuses on, what Atria is really built for, is building and inventing individual AI minds that preserve identity, that keep that signal to noise ratio for the individual, and eventually become more nuanced. Kind of like how gains compound over time. This AI mind you build through Atria is meant to get better over time because of the individual's feedback, because of that massive amount of data that you can produce over a long amount of time, as opposed to just a bulk set of training that you can extract through the internet. And this level of training and data retention is just something simply large corporations cannot support. And this is where I start preaching my vision a little bit. What I envision in the future is a world where AI is custom tailored to every individual, and AI is not just some super intelligence locked behind closed doors and people are only permitted to access it when they have a subscription. Individuals can unlock the depth and the nuance that they want out of any model they wish, and the data and the artificial mind that you create is always yours, and there is no compromise when it comes to privacy and security. And not only that, you won't be locked into a single ecosystem for integrating anything around you, technologically speaking. You will be able to integrate your individual AI that you have trained on your data and privately integrate it with any technology you find feasible. Atria helps you with that. Atria is built for that sovereignty, and it helps you develop AI minds very simply by circumventing all the individual low-level code and all the model weights, and it lets you get started from a very low threshold, but allows you to dive as deep as you possibly wish you could. Atria supports plugins from day one, and there's a lot of great future plans that I have for Atria that involve a mixture of experts using individual Atria minds together in more of a graphical sense. And this is where you come in. You can download and try Atria right now and get started with creating your first AI mind and train it as an individual to be a completely custom AI. And all it takes is a few minutes. So give it a shot. Tell me if you see the vision that I see. Feel free to join the Discord. Govern your own intelligence systems. The direction of AI should not be founded behind closed doors. It should be up to the individual's freedom and the capabilities of everyone around us, as opposed to a board of directors. I have big plans for Atria, and I want you to be part of it. Thanks.